We'll bring the planning board, Painesville Planning Board meeting to
Open the meeting.
just thinking here. First, call to order. The consent agenda is the first item on our list on page 1. I'd be looking for a motion if there's no discussion.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from March.
And I second it.
Gene, seconded by Randy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. All righty, new business, variance request by yours truly on page 4. I'm not sure how much of this I need to read, but I'll read a bit of it at least. The city has received a variance application from Bill and Hancy Fuchs to allow 2 additions to the existing structure at 201 Minnie Street, Painesville, Minnesota, particularly described, The property is Zone C1 Central Business District, but which also lies within the Shoreland Overlay District. The proposed additions to the structure will exceed the maximum lot coverage of 30% within the Shoreland Overlay District. Specifically, after the completion of the proposed addition, the lot coverage on the lot would be 33.37%. The proposed new structure would be a 50 by 80 and a 10 by 32 respectively, and the total lot coverage, including buildings and eave overhangs after the addition of these structures, would be 14,290 square feet on a property totaling 42,400 square feet, representing 33.37. In addition, the variance application asks that if the extension is permitted, the variance specifically allow for dirt work within the Shoreland Overlay District on such conditions as the Board of Adjustments may deem proper. I can read the rest here. If the variance is granted, the variance shall be conditioned on the requirement that any dirt work or grading required in connection with the proposed addition be done subject to the following: that the grading and filling involve the smallest amount of bare ground being exposed for the shortest amount of time feasible. B, that temporary ground cover such as mulch be used and permanent ground cover such as sod or seeding is planted as soon as practical. C, methods to prevent erosion and trap sediment are employed. And D, fill is stabilized to acceptable engineering standards.
I take it the applicant's aware of all those requirements?
Yes. We went through this entire process 2 years ago. Brad, I assume we passed with flying colors. We didn't seem to have any issues 2 years ago doing the dirt work. And
Well, I don't remember, so that must mean I went all right.
no news is good news. Yes, sir.
Is the Board of Adjustment through Stearns County, or are we the Board of Adjustment?
It's Painesville.
The Board of Adjustment is the city council.
The City Council, okay. Is the sketch to scale, and where does the Shoreland Overlay District, where is that on the?
So the Shoreland Overlay District is about 300, not about, it's 300 feet, and almost, this is very close. Almost my entire property is in the shoreline.
Oh, geez, okay.
Goes almost up to Minnie Street. Within 25 feet, 20 feet.
How close is it to the actual Crow River?
River?
Yeah.
My city, 4 city lots don't, so I own this portion. I don't actually, I also own this, but that's in the township. So my city lots don't touch the river at all. This property is a Crow River Trail Guards land. So from here to the river, I would say 160 feet, 170 feet, because this is 200. So it's about there.
Okay. So there's adequate land in between where you want to build to the river?
Yeah, there's an entire another piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's slow.
Yes,
Gradual.
very, very gradual until it reaches the bank, and then it drops off a little bit faster. But yes, you are correct, it does slope back.
Are you able to put a berm or raise that up so that if there was any spillage of chemicals or anything, that would prevent that from going into the,
So on a temporary basis for the construction, we're putting up a silt fence? Are you talking about that, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about like an actual, kind of like a little hill?
I actually do. It's not part of this, but if you, on this piece of property, which I own, and also this, which I maintain for the trail guards, I actually put mulch along so it slopes kind of down gradually, and right before it drops off, I actually have a row of mulch so that the water doesn't run into the river. It has a chance to soak into the aquifer.
Would you be opposed to having a little bit, just like when you're grading it? Is that something that's possible, Brad, or not?
It really isn't, only because because I'm in C1, I don't have to, I have no setback. So it would actually not be on my property, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Bill, you're proposing a post frame structure, right? Post frame? Pole barn?
Post frame pole barn,
So
yes.
really, in all reality, in the construction of this building, there will be very little dirt.
Very little dirt work, but it's unrequired because of the ordinance, but yes, they
Right.
will, basically, I have Jim Gabrielson contracted to come in, and they don't want to haul, and I don't want to pay for any more dirt than is required. So yeah, it isn't like you have to do a ton of grading out, because you just put more, it's cheaper just to put more green treated boards in and have the building up higher off the ground. Does that, you follow that? Does that make sense?
That's,
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd explain that.
So it isn't like I'm creating more of a slope, I guess, to answer your
Okay.
question.
You know,
So the
I
amount of
was,
dirt that's actually being moved in this construction is considerably less than we're actually pouring the frost foot
right.
and digging trenches.
You should stop in and check it out.
I certainly could.
And you certainly could.
Go ahead. I was just gonna ask environmentally if anybody has, as far as Brad, do you have any concern about any spillage of chemicals or anything that could possibly happen?
No, actually,
Case
you
scenario.
know, in the long run, he's creating more inside space, containment space with the building, meaning less things are outside dripping on the ground, so.
Oh, that sounds great.
And if it, not connected with this, but I actually have had the Minnesota EPA out and did a tour and checked out all, and they gave me a letter of shining colors,
That's awesome.
or whatever.
That's a big deal.
Whatever that's worth for you, yeah.
Yes.
If there aren't any more questions, I'll make the motion to approve the report and recommendation of planning board on application for Fuchs variance, Fuchs, and recommend such to the city council.
Do a worksheet to do with this one?
I didn't see a worksheet, but maybe there is. Oh, you are correct. This is the first time I've gotten to do the worksheet. Is it okay that I go through it, being it associates with myself?
I think so, as long as you don't vote, yep.
Okay. We have a worksheet. Whereas the city administrator has received from Bill Fuchs and Hancy Fuchs a variance application to allow an addition to existing structure, which are within an area zone C1 Central Business District, but which also lies within the Shoreland Overlay District, and the proposed addition to the structure will exceed the maximum lot coverage of 30% within the Shoreland Overlay District specifically. After the completion of the proposed addition, the lot coverage on the lot would be 33.37. The proposed new structure would be a 50 by 80 and 10 by 32. And the total lot coverage, including buildings and eave overhangs after the addition of these structures, would be 14,290 on a property totaling 42,000, representing 33.37 in lot coverage. In addition, variance application asks that if the expansion is permitted, the variance specifically allow for dirt work within the Shoreland Overlay District on such conditions as the Board of Adjustments may deem proper, and wherein Bill and Hancy Fuchs are the owners of the property in question located at 201 Main Street. I'm not going to read the parcel information. We will go right to the first question. Whereas, now this has been confusing to me in the past, Jennifer, we've had this discussion of reasonable and unreasonable, so I'm gonna try and stumble through here. Whereas the planning board believes that the owner's use of the property as proposed would be reasonable.
Yeah, you guys have to say that.
Yeah, no, I'm just understanding because we've had this discussion in the past where sometimes the language seems almost convoluted.
So if there is any of them that are in the negative, it is automatically a no. It does not go any further.
So it would be a
It's done.
reasonable one. So all members would say reasonable, is that?
So we would say, whereas the planning board believes the owner's use of the property as proposed would be reasonable because, and then we would fill in the blank.
Yeah, we have never even filled in the blanks. You do that. Okay. All those in favor of that would be reasonable? Reasonable?
Reasonable?
Okay. Whereas the planning board believes that the strict enforcement of the zoning ordinance in this instance would be imposed an undue hardship? Do you agree?
It would be impose an undue hardship.
Would impose an undue hardship. That would be what we would be looking for.
You want a,
Yes, all those would be in favor, would agree?
Yes.
Yes? I don't know if we're supposed to do it.
Yep, you're
Agree?
fine.
Okay. An undue hardship in connection with the grant or denial of a variance means that the property in question cannot be put to a reasonable use under the condition allowed by the zoning ordinance. Economic considerations alone do not constitute an undue hardship if a reasonable use of the property exists under the terms of the ordinance. Whereas the planning board believes that the landowner's difficulties requiring a variance for this property are A, due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. Agree?
Yep.
Katie?
If I abstain, does that mean that this goes down? Because it would be as a whole.
You can't abstain unless have a conflict on it.
Okay, I will say aye.
this doesn't have to be unanimous, does it?
No, my question would be is the reason for the abstention though. If you felt that that was, I mean, if you're abstaining, you must have a reason why that you didn't feel comfortable saying that that would be okay.
And there's no conflict.
No, there's no conflict.
I have a conflict due to environmental issues, but I do believe that it is, for him to add on, he does have a unique property, as in the majority of it is already in the shoreline district, so I would vote aye.
Agreed. Whereas the planning board finds that the variance, if granted, A, will not alter the essential character of the locality. Agreed?
Aye.
Yep.
Whereas the planning board finds that the variance, if granted, A, will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. Agreed?
Yep.
Aye.
Therefore, the planning board recommends that the request for variance be granted. Agreed?
Aye.
Okay. Further, the planning board recommends that the variance be granted and variance be conditioned on the requirement that any dirt work or grade required in connection with the proposed addition be done subject to the following.
Hey Jennifer, can Bill sign this?
Probably not.
His name is on here.
Yeah, I think he can.
Okay.
I'll have to double check, but he's
And
not
I'm
gonna sign
the
it.
testing, you're signing, I'm the testing.
Yes.
Yeah, so he won't be done tonight anyways, because I'll have to fill in the blanks, but I can double check, but I still think he can, because he's still operating as a chairperson.
Okay.
Let me know.
If not, we'll just change it to,
Me, I'm the vice chair.
Yeah, Gene certainly could. And
It might
certainly.
be safer to just have Jean.
Yeah, I would say that would be fine with me, just have Gene do it. I'm just gonna read the last bit here. The temporary ground cover such as mulch is used, permanent ground cover such as sod or seeding is planted as soon as practical. Methods preventing erosion and trapping sediment are employed and fill is stabilized to acceptable engineering standards. Thank you, folks. Okay, so then we have to do a motion also still, after the worksheet? Yeah.
we have a motion on the floor.
I already made the
We
motion.
do, yeah, that's right. Gene made a motion. Do we have a second?
And I second.
Seconded by Randy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes.
One abstention.
Again?
One abstention, because
One
you can't
abstention, one
vote.
abstention. That is correct. Thank you. Okay, moving on. New business B, variance request, on page 15. And is there a worksheet with this one also? There sure is. It would appear, Jennifer, that the information generally kind of duplicates, so instead of reading the page 15, can I just read the recommendation?
It does, and maybe I could just chime in just a little bit, but if you turn to
Absolutely.
page 18, I think it lays it out the best. And really what they're trying to do is, they have buildings A, B, and C, and they want to build buildings D and E that are highlighted in yellow.
You have to see the,
And you will see the lots, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10 are on the west side, and lots 11, 12, and 13 are on the east side. The outlot that lies in the middle is the old railroad spur. That is what they have gone through the process of trying to vacate, obtain ownership of, so that they can build building D over the lot lines. And the variance is because they're not going to meet any of those setbacks. But the reason that they ask for the variance now and not meet the setbacks is they cannot combine the lots. Typically, we would not allow them to build over the lot lines unless the lots were combined. But building A has a TIF on it. And it is, if we combine the lots, it negates the TIF because they're asking for some other financial support. So you'll see within the document that's before you that they're attesting to that they will combine the lots upon the termination of the TIF or when it runs out or decertifying the TIF. So that's what we're going to hold them to, is to combine the lots at a later time.
And what's the time frame on that, just out of curiosity, when does that?
They have 2 years left on the existing TIF, so if they let that run, it would be at that 2-year mark. Then you will find that all the lots on 10 through 6, and 11 through 13 would be pretty much all one lot, owned by one owner.
that's what.
That's kind of like the magnitude of the outcome.
Thank you for that.
So I think you could jump directly to page 13, or excuse me, 23, and start maybe in the middle of that.
Is there any discussion or questions? This seems like, yeah, I mean, this is pretty straightforward and common sense stuff. It's a shame that the railroad spur wasn't ever put in, but at this point, I think it's a moot point, and we might as well, let the, economic development of that land proceed.
Sure, and you guys have saw it already previously through some of the other ongoings that they had. The preliminary plat's gone through you, the concept plan has gone through you. The final plat will be coming, so for that outlot, but this is another step that they have to go through so they can actually build over those lot lines.
I will proceed to read unless there's any more questions or discussion.
It'll be nice once that's all completed.
It will be, absolutely. And they've been, that's an old business in this community. They've been here a long time, so we value that. So on page 23, where is the planning board that the owner's use of the property as proposed would be
Reasonable.
See, it gets confusing, I'm sorry. And we all agree to that, reasonable?
Reasonable? Yes.
Whereas the planning board believes that the landowner's need for a variance is due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner, agreed?
Agreed.
Whereas the planning board finds that the variance, if granted, A, will not alter the essential character of the locality, or, yes, agreed?
Aye.
Randy? Whereas the planning board finds that the variance, if granted, A, will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. Agreed?
Aye.
Therefore, the planning board recommends that the request for variance be granted. Agreed?
Aye.
Okay. And then we did have a motion on page 15. I will make that motion to approve the report and recommendation of planning board on application for Lewis variance, recommended such to the city council.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Jean. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that passes. Okay, we'll go back to the front page. Old business, chicken ordinance proposal, page 25. Can I give you the floor?
Yes, may I be recognized by the chair?
Absolutely.
So typically, the request to have chickens in cities takes about 3 or 4 times before all the kinks are worked out within cities. So what I did is I went ahead and went through a large amount of ordinances and kind of put this together. I am going to say that this is probably overkill. I think that we don't necessarily have the staff to go ahead and check everybody's coop and whatnot. I think that we would be able to just change 6.2 in farm animals, just to remove the word chickens. So section, if you're looking at the current code and ordinances, under 6.2 definitions, farm animals mean mules, donkeys, sheep, goats, swine, ponies, ducks, geese, turkeys, chickens, rabbits, guinea hens, and honeybees. So the simplest way to do this is just to remove the word chickens. And then under 6.5, where the definitions are, you would add permitted poultry or permitted chickens, and then you would define poultry as means domesticated birds in the order of Galliforms, excluding the genus Malaris, that serve as a source of eggs or meat. And so I'm wondering if we can go ahead and have a discussion over the ordinance, the long one, and if the long one is too complicated, if we could go ahead and vote to approve the short one.
And I didn't see any action plan in here, is that?
Well, I did put in the action because I didn't know where the board was going to go with it.
Okay.
She presented it as a proposal to the board, which I had sent out. Then I didn't know if she was going to put it in an actual ordinance form. I was looking for I have an email that I was looking for an update or a revision by a certain date. I didn't get that, so I just put this back on. So I think the board can, I think they could move ahead with a motion to council to proceed with a chicken ordinance. Because ultimately, this isn't really a planning This would actually go to the policies and procedures. I know always ended up in planning, but all the ordinances except for chapter 30 and 36 are approved by policies and procedures and ultimately the council. However, in the past, the planning board has taken out chickens.
And
So I think you could make a recommendation to council to proceed with the chicken ordinance, and then the council would consider that on Monday night if they want to consider a chicken ordinance. And then that would expend staff time, legal fees if necessary to draft the ordinance as proposed, and then go through that process.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but my understanding is your view is the best way to proceed would not be a chicken ordinance. It would be to remove some verbiage from the current ordinance involving things that are allowed in the city.
I think
Understanding
that,
that?
yes, I think that would probably be the simplest way to proceed, just because throughout the rest of our current code, it covers cleanliness of animals and making sure that they're taken care of in all of those items. So that would be the simplest way to proceed.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if that is the direction we would go, my understanding is the only reason it ever was kind of part of our process here was because of a coop and the structure involved in that. Truth be told, if that's the process you'd like to proceed, it's not really even about us. Jennifer, does that make sense?
I think it fell on the planning board because I think the planning board member was one of them that was, in favor of the chicken coop and the chicken ordinance. Now, if we just changed a few words in our current ordinance, I really believe that all those other things are going to come back up though.
Okay.
So I believe, if I'm not speaking out of turn and not putting words in the council's mouth and or the public's mouth, I believe that the cleanliness, the permitting, the amount, how they're going to be housed or stored, the whole fecal material, flies, smell, food, rodents, all of that is going to come up.
It's going to require an ordinance of some sort.
So I think that's why in the past, a chicken ordinance was proposed.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Makes sense.
I don't want to put words in the council's mouth, but maybe Jean, you could step in and,
I was going to say, yeah, they'd want some additional restrictions, like number of chickens, no roosters, things like that too, that would need to be in an ordinance.
And then there's monitoring as well.
and then who's going to enforce the ordinance?
That's it.
Enforcement. And if the dog gets out, let's say Bill has chickens and his neighbor's dog gets out and eats one of his chickens, we have that whole issue. And so I think you can make a motion tonight if you want to proceed or ask the council to proceed with some type of chicken ordinance or chicken proposal. Then the council can say, yes, let's proceed and direct it to what committee they want that to go to, or no, we've already dealt with this, we're not going to proceed.
Okay. Thank you for
And
that.
Katie, you're welcome to come and present, or ask questions or answer questions
Sure.
if you would like.
What is the committee that it would go to next then?
Well, I think it goes to council.
It'll go to council next.
And then they're going to say, yes, we want to bring it back up, and we're going to direct staff and city attorney to go ahead and spend that time and effort on that project.
Okay.
And potentially they'll push it back to planning, or they could push it to policies and procedures.
Which makes more sense, yeah.
Thank you for that excellent explanation. So you still have the floor. I don't know if you'd like to
Yes.
propose a motion that we would put to, see if there was a second, put to a vote.
Sure. So if we could, I'd like to make the motion that we provide this information to the city council so that they may review it and decide whether or not to move forward.
Motion was made by Katie. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Randy. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. That cover everything for you?
Yes, thank you, sir.
You bet. All right. Moving on, informational. Building inspector report. Mr. Brad, 31, page 31.
Things are starting to pick up a little bit. Two things of note, the house that was tore down on Minnesota Street for hazardous condition is completely gone, and they poured the footings today for the new house. That'll be moving along real quick, and then the Fortitude Senior Living, that, they've got the permit, and they're ready to roll.
That's the one out on the other side of 55?
Right.
Excellent.
Big project there.
Is there a guesstimated completion date of that?
Oh, I think he told me, but I don't remember, probably within a year.
Very good sized project.
Yes.
Okay. Other informational, page 37, CCLD. Questions or comments on that? More Brad's world than anyone else here, I suppose. And if not, next meeting, Monday, May 17th, 2021 at 6 p.m. And that's it. We will adjourn. Thanks, folks. I'll get that whole